Hi, so I thought this video could be more about diets, D-I-E-D. And some people, remember I showed you the sign was for fasting, the F-hand shape, fasting, which means not eating, you're zipping up your mouth. Some people do diet that way, but diets. And the reason why I decided to discuss this topic was because not only myself and my husband are doing some different diet things, but also a coworker. So I thought, well, maybe it's a good idea that many people are looking at different diets and trying to find out which is the best for them. So the first one that I wanted to discuss was this intermittent fasting. And the reason I do is because this is every once in a while. Or you could do intermittent, right? That's every once in a while fasting. But what does that really mean? And they're saying that most of the time, this intermittent fasting is that you try to fast like 16 hours to 18 hours during one time. So you eat, maybe let's just say breakfast, and then you eat lunch, and then not again until breakfast. Or you could do lunch and then dinner and then not eat anything until the next day, lunch. And so sometimes some people eat one time a day. Now you could also say once a day, or twice a day. And they find out that really helps and it's really successful. And not only with this intermittent fasting, but what they do is they try to eat whole food. Now you could say whole, but I said whole. You could do either one. Like I said, you know, a lot of times deaf people, they break the rules, and so you want to be able to communicate. That's really the most important here. So I would say whole foods, and they may say, I could just see my friend going, what's whole food? I go, oh, you know, it's not processed. And you go out, process. And that's the sign for any type of processing. Or you could say, it's, and they will say, what do you mean processing? You know, it's like real whole food. It's like the vegetables that are not canned, they're in that section of the vegetables and the fruit. They're not canned. And maybe you could buy frozen because you don't want a lot of salt or sugar added. Plus, you don't want a lot of different chemicals added to save or keep the food. I say save because that way it won't become bad. For example, people say, oh, peanut butter, because it has added salt or sugar. Now, you can find some peanut butter without added sugar or whatever, but I also found where I shop, my grocery store, they sell peanut butter that's not been processed any. There's no salt added, there's no sugar added. All that's in it is peanuts, and they just grind it there in the store. Now remember, I did coffee, like a coffee grinder, but you can also do like a grinder. You know the old fashioned where you put in the wheat or other nuts or whatever and you grind it? You can do that way. Also, people do that with they grind it with their herbs and things like that. They grind it. So it's a pure peanut butter, and they said that's okay. But they want you to watch, if you're going to do the intermittent fasting, to make sure that you eat more healthy. They want you to have food that's not been in the can and that's not been in the freezer. Well, if you do it like in the freezer, like it's the vegetables, so look and find out, is there no added sugar? Most of the time not. They don't add anything. But to look. So they really prefer you just to go into the grocery store, into the vegetable section and the fruit section, and buy it fresh. I did an F-hand shape and fresh. This is new, and that should be the sign for fresh, right? But that added F hand shape, even though that's initialized, what it's called initialized, it makes it more clear. And that's the whole point of communicating with deaf people, and you are not, proficient at ASL. So fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. That's the best. It doesn't have any chemicals. And if you go home, remember I did that video before where you wash your vegetables and you wash your fruit. And we have that fruit and vegetable wash that you can buy to clean any kind of chemicals off of that fruit, off of that vegetables. Off and on, but off. OFF. So off. And so many people realize, oh, I'm eating better. I'm not eating all this processed, all these chemicals that they add. Because when you look at the back of your package or your can, you're seeing all these different things that they add, and you're going, maybe not so good for us, right? Sometimes the frozen vegetables or fruit, they have nothing added. So that's, to preserve the food. This is to preserve, save. This is to save money, but you can also save money. But this is to save or preserve. So you don't want that added to your food. So it's once you start eating that way, then the processed food, you're going, it doesn't look like it's, really delicious anymore. But I have to say that I kind of miss some foods, right? They want you to be careful of bread. I love bread, they call it kisfis, but it's really originally like in the Catholic religion, a bishop's ring, and they would kiss it to love something that's inanimate. If you love a person, you love it. You can love your dog, you can love your cat, you can love your bird or whatever, but something that's inanimate, you love it. Like I love chocolate. Just stash it away. Anyway, so you can have dark chocolate, but I like it, but add it with the sugar. But there's different ways to do that. They said that on the artificial sweeteners, the best is really like the stevia. It's more natural, and that's what you want. Some things that are more natural that you eat and put into your body, and you won't gain so much weight. And that's what people, they don't want. They don't want to gain weight. But if you eat, I liked it too. Donuts and cookies. I love that. I love anything with flour, right? And pancakes and cookies and cake. I love that. And cornbread. I just love all those types of food. And so it's been really tough. Or sandwiches. Sometimes for your kids it's a little bit harder, but you can add this natural peanut butter if your school will allow you to put it on like apples or like celery. You can cut it up and then you can put some raisins on there. And so natural fruit is fine. You just don't want to eat too much of it because it has sugar in it. But it's a good way to eat more naturally. The next one I wanted to discuss is keto. Your K handshake, Keto, keto diet. And everyone has kind of really heard about keto, and they replace many things with cheese, and they replace it with cauliflower, if I can spell that correctly, cauliflower. And they'll kind of crush it and mash it and make it like mashed potatoes, or they replace it, and they mash it and they roll it out and make it for like pizza crust. And so they'll do that with many things. And then sometimes they'll like replace, instead of like a taco shell, they'll have like cheese that they have, and they shape it, and they kind of melt it in a pan and then shape it and then put your food in there. You can do that. Also, if you want to do without the bread, you can also like make a hamburger without the bun, without the bread, and make it however you want, and then just eat it, with your fork and your knife, eat it that way. And it's just without bread. So you could do that, but you have to be careful, like of your ketchup and all the different things that that have a lot of added sugar. I like mayonnaise too. I haven't had a hot dog in forever, but every once in a while, I want one. But a keto has more meat as well, and there's nothing wrong with meat. There's nothing wrong with butter. There's nothing wrong with um, like bacon fat to cook with. They're saying that's more natural if you use vegetable oil. That most of the time, how they process that is they heat it up, and then it becomes a trans fat. And so they're saying that if you want to use oil, use olive oil or avocado oil or coconut oil. So many people are replacing it. And when you see that process of how vegetable oil is made, you're going, maybe not. And I thought it was good too. And many recipes has that. So you have to just kind of change how you eat, and that's tough. And especially with kids when they're so picky anyway. But if you start like introducing them to more whole foods or natural foods, it'll be better. And I know you're thinking, oh, but they're saving it in their school lunch and blah, blah, blah. And you just have to kind of get creative with more natural foods, like salads. And you add things that they like raisins or almonds, the different nuts, or walnuts, people like. And so you can add those things. And a little bit of dressing. Be careful of which dressings they say. So those are the two diets that I am seeing, but it's really like a way of living. And I think that's better, that some people will like buy the food or whatever, but they have to have preservatives to make sure that it doesn't become bad. So that's why they're really suggesting. And so we've been reading and we've been watching some different shows, and it's really interesting. And especially as you become older and you don't want the kids having this diabetes. And always you hear about like a middle schooler or a high schooler that's in sports like football or whatever, they end up having a heart attack and a stroke, and they're having diabetes, and they're saying more children are having older diseases that we had not seen except in older adults. So you want to guard against, protect your children against some of these diseases. You don't want them to have diabetes. You don't want them to have high blood pressure. You don't want them to have heart problems. You don't want those three things that are the most killers and that we see in older adults. So be careful with your children. Be careful with yourselves. And so I challenge you to go out there and discuss it with different people and read the labels and discuss more diets. So I spell it just because it's easier to understand, because remember we did dentist. People will do that for dentist, so that's why I don't do that for diet. But if that deaf person uses the sign diet, then you use it too. So always make sure that if they're using it, that sign, you use it too. So anyway, have fun with this, with the signs, and discuss it with your friends and your family, and enjoy it. And I will see you later. Bye.